everyone. Thanks for joining the session today. This is Uma joining from Hyderabad in India. I see Brenda from the US East Coast. It must be early for you, Brenda, 6:30 in the morning.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks for joining. And we have Atewet joining us from Italy. Hello. I think she's on mute. We have Linsha and Rashmeet from Delhi, Swathi from Hyderabad, Mahua from Bangalore, and I just see someone else joining in. So before we get started, can we do a quick round of introduction? If you could just tell us who you are, what you do, where you're joining from, and if you have read the book or watched the documentary that's up on Netflix, that will give us some context for the session. So shall we start with Linsha?
Yes, Uma. So I recently completed my MBA from IIM Bangalore and I shifted to Gurgaon, and currently I'm working with Gartner. It's a research and advisory firm as a product manager, and I'm basically from Kerala.
Okay.
Regarding the documentary, I haven't seen it. The book, that's a current read. I'm like 20% into the book and really interested in that book. And like almost every line, there's a new learning and something that I need to think deep about. So that's why I joined this call.
Okay, very nice. Thanks for joining, Linsha. Rashmeet, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, I am Rashmeet. I am joining in from New Delhi. I have watched the complete documentary. It was much easier than finishing a book for me. I struggle with time issues. And the book, I've read a summary of the book. I struggle with time, like I mentioned. So this discussion makes sense to me, particularly because I wanted to get a sense of conversations that one can have and how we can go beyond just reading the book. And for someone who has, and there are people who face a lot of issues with time management these days, it's always better to have and learn from other people, which is exactly why I'm here, getting the community vibe for the book.
Okay, thanks, Rashmeet. Swathi?
Hello, everyone. I think most of us know each other. I'm from Hyderabad too. I'm an entrepreneur. I run a startup called as EY.in. Now it's a platform for virtual celebrations. That is what we are experimenting with right now. And I also lead Women Tech Makers for Google, and she leads tech for Facebook. And this format is really interesting. I've seen discussion forums around discussing something around the book. It is mostly in the words. I've never joined any interactive session like this, so this format is really interesting, and that's why I thought I should not miss this out. Though the timing was not at all matching, I thought we will discuss and we can share and lot more beyond what we can do it individually. And coming to the book, I finished the book, not the documentary. I did not get a chance to see the documentary yet, but I finished the book and it was quite inspiring, and love to share and learn more from you.
Thanks, Swathi. Brenda, do you want to go next? I think she is on mute. Seema, do you want to go next while Brenda is back? Can you tell us who you are, where you're joining from, and if you have read the book?
Yeah. Hi, this is Seema. I'm joining from Delhi, and I actually run an NGO, and I have 2 schools for the children from marginalized communities, both in Gurgaon. And through this COVID period, we've been working very actively with the children on WhatsApp, and trying to keep them engaged, because these children have very short-lived memories, and if we leave them for more than about 48 hours, they forget everything that we've taught them. Yeah, actually. So we've been pretty busy through the COVID period, and of course I miss them a lot, because the children are real stress busters for me, and going to school actually makes me forget every problem in the world. So I'm missing them, but I guess we got to cope with this for another couple of months because we're not sure when we will be able to go back into these communities, considering that COVID is like a monster looming large over our heads. But all the same, and I'll be very honest, today when I registered for this particular call, that's when I saw the documentary on the TV. And that's when I ordered the book Becoming, because, there's always a tipping point, and there's something always which nudges you to do something which you've been wanting to do, but not been doing so far. So I'm really looking forward to this session so that, at least it will set my expectations about what to look forward in the book. And the documentary is very interesting. And that's what I've been watching all of this morning. So I'm looking forward to being here. And I think these sessions are really useful, and I enjoy them every time I take part in them. So looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thanks, Seema. Hi, Brenda. Are you back? Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, sorry guys, I have a little one, so it's a hectic morning for me, but I was determined to join because I watched just a little bit of the documentary. I haven't finished watching it, and I fell in love with it. Looking at her background and the support that she had from her family, and also her being a Black woman and the way she grew up. So it inspired me. I've ordered the book. I'm still waiting for it. I really want to learn more about her and how they actually matured, her and her husband, to be where they are right now. So about me, my name is Brenda. I'm from US. I'm a Scrum Master. I work for a small financial company in the US. Currently, I'm on maternity leave. I just had a small baby, and I'm happy to join the group.
Thank you so much, Brenda. It must be 6:30 in the morning for you. So amazing that you could join. Thank you. Lovely having you here.
All right, guys.
We have Chetna. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, where you're joining from, and if you've read the book. Chetna, you are on mute. Okay, I can't seem to hear her. Atewet has joined us back. Let's just hear from her and we'll get started. Atewet, hello, welcome to the session.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Thank you.
So you're joining us from Italy, right?
Yeah, I'm joining you from Italy.
Okay, lovely. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us if you've read the book, and then we'll get started?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, I live in Italy. I heard about starting me through Anita. She suggested me the website, so I thought it was interesting to see a book club. I have actually already read Becoming. Michelle Obama, I think it's a great book, so I'm happy that this is the first book we'll be discussing this book club.
Okay, thank you so much for joining. Lovely having you here. So we'll get started. If the others join in, they can continue the discussion. So like I mentioned, I'm Uma. I'm one of the founders of The Star and Me. I'm based in India in a place called Hyderabad. I'm very happy to lead our first book club discussion. In fact, I read quite a lot. I'm what is called a bookworm. So I read over 100 books a year. Not all of them non-fiction, though. I read more fiction than non-fiction. But I love reading autobiographies because it's always interesting to read someone's story said in their own words, how they became what they are today and so on. And obviously, Michelle Obama is a figure to be reckoned with. So it's amazing to read her story. So I'll just give a brief overview to those who may not have read the book as yet. The book Becoming is an autobiography by Michelle Obama. She has written the book in 3 parts. The first part says Becoming Me, which is all about her journey from her childhood, her education, and how she went on to study what she studied at 2 Ivy League colleges in the US. The second part is Becoming Us, where she talks about how she met Barack Obama, how they fell in love and got married. That captures that entire part. And the last part of the book is called Becoming More, where she talks about their journey as the President of United States and the First Lady of the United States, and how they transitioned from a normal life to life as one of the most important families across the world, and how the entire political landscape as well as the environment around them influenced her personal life and her growth as an individual. So it's an amazing depiction of the very interesting story that she went through. In fact, there is a line in the book where she says, I am an ordinary person who went through an extraordinary journey. So that kind of captures the essence of the book for me, how an ordinary person went through such an amazing journey and how she felt throughout the entire journey. So what I've done is on my Kindle, as I was reading the book, I made notes of some points which kind of struck with me. Like someone else also said, I don't remember who, if you read quite a lot like I do, there is sometimes you see a beauty in the way words are depicted. You know, there is one sentence, but you read that sentence and there is probably a couple of pages worth of essence in it when you try and understand its meaning. So there are some of these words and sentences that struck with me, which I will read to you, and then let's discuss these points. The first thing, in fact, it's in the first part of the book, in the preface, it says, Michelle Obama says, I think it's one of the most useless questions an adult can ask a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if growing up is finite, as if at the end, as if at some point you become something and that's the end. She says, so far in my life, I've been a lawyer. I've been a vice president at a hospital and the director of a nonprofit that helps young people build meaningful careers. I've been a working class Black student at a fancy, mostly white college. I've been the only woman, the only African American in all sorts of rooms. I've been a bride, a stressed out new mother, a daughter torn up by grief. And until very recently, I was the First Lady of the United States of America. A job that's not officially a job, but that nonetheless has given me a platform like nothing I could have imagined. So this kind of conveys the essence of, what she means and why she titled her book as Becoming. What she's trying to say is that, it's not like you reach an end of the journey. If you say, I wanted to become a doctor when I was a kid, and once you become a doctor, then that's it. So it doesn't really work that way. Becoming is a journey and how we keep evolving through life. So for those who read the book and even for the others who did not, does this resonate with you? Do you agree that, we don't become something at some point in life and then our evolution stops? Is it an evolving journey? Do you agree with this? I see Maybelline has joined. Good morning, Maybelline. Must be early for you.
Yes, good morning.
Hi, Sangeeta. So we just got started discussing the book. We were talking about some of the key points from the book. The first point that Michelle made is how this question that adults sometimes ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, is a very rhetorical sort of a question, because you don't end up becoming something at one point in life. So does that point resonate with all of you? Does anyone have anything to say around that? Yes, Sangeeta, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that. And in fact, I feel that as humans, we are constantly evolving. And in fact, I feel that every 5 years, we need to reinvent ourselves. So there's never a time that it's too late to pick up a new skill, or it's too late to become something. No, it's never too late.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Sangeeta. Anyone else wants to add to this point before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I can add to that. Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say I agree with what Michelle said, from experience, I think growing up, you want to become, you say you want to become something because of what you see on TV, or what you hear from friends, or just what you hear from those who are your role models. And as you grow up, experience might change you to become something else, in terms of the environment that you're in, or the pressures of life can change you to become something that you never thought you will be. Or as you venture into something that you say you want to be, let's say, I started my journey in accounting, but I ended up as a project manager, something that I never thought I would become. And I was very quiet. I never thought I'll be able to actually inspire and lead teams in my lifetime. So experiences and pressures and just the environment that you expose yourself into, it changes you, and you become something that you never expected to be.
Thank you, Brenda. That is indeed very insightful, especially since you gave this personal context of how you in fact changed your roles, and still got to adapt and grow. I think that's amazing. Maybelline, you were saying something?
Yeah, it's just in line with Brenda, same thing. But I think you also have to start from when you're younger, right? That we can't neglect that what we thought when we were younger is important, having a strong identity. Even 8-year-olds can start and say, I want to be something. And for parents, it's difficult for us to maintain that interest, right? The curiosity to try. We need to keep allowing our children to have those dreams. And even when we're older, does not mean we don't have any dreams, right? We forget about it. There are stages in our life that we say, oh, well, we're too this, too that. But really, in reality, we're just not allowing ourselves to listen to the heart, using our guts and instincts, because there are times that there's a lot of warnings in our, when we're moving along and we're just not listening. And we need to pay attention to those signs.
That's amazing. Two amazing points that you brought up. One, the fact that we don't stop evolving, or we shouldn't stop dreaming even as we grow older, because dreams never die. And secondly, that now it is our responsibility as adults to help shape our children's dreams and inspire them to dream bigger and dream that they could be whatever they wanted to be, and not curtail it. Amazing.
For me, the line was really thought-provoking. When I read that, I think I just put the book aside for some time to, really understand, what she has actually told is something that I'm already witnessing. I mean, that's something I keep on changing, I think, every 2 years. And there's always my big sister who always says that, you keep on changing yourself. This year you'll say something, and next year you'll say something else, and after 2 years you'll tell something else, and you're never constant. And whatever you say from this year to next year, there is no connection between it also. So that has been the comments that I used to get, and I used to think it was normal, though it is abnormal in my family, because there's a path set and you keep growing in that same career, right? If you're a part of a corporate, if you're working for Amazon, if you're working for Microsoft. But for me, it was so different. When I read that, I think it absolutely hit the nail on the head. And I then started looking forward so much more, and what's in store in life, right? I was like so excited about what else is coming in the future.
That is very nice. Lovely. Thank you, Swathi. I'll move on to the next thing that struck me as I was reading the book. So this is where Michelle is talking about her family, her mother and father, and how they raised her and her brother as they were growing up. So she says her mother, Marianne, showed her how to see the value in our story, in my story, and in the larger story of our country. She says, even when it's not pretty or perfect, even when it's more real than you want it to be, your story is what you have, what you will always have. It is something to own. I think that was another powerful sentence that struck a chord with me, because at the end of the day, that's all we have, right? And that is something unique that nobody else can replicate or steal or take away from us. So each of us has our own story. And that story has literally shaped us from the time we were born to where we are today, and in future, the way things are going to turn out for us. So that particular story is what defines us. And we need to accept that story and be extremely proud about it. And in fact, later on in the book, for those of you who haven't read it as yet, there comes a moment when Michelle talks about, this particular speech that Barack Obama delivered. And that speech is very famous. It is called the speech that made Obama the president of the United States. You can look it up on YouTube. It was in the year 2004 when John Kerry was getting elected and Barack Obama was supposed to make a speech. So that is apparently the first time he stood in front of 15,000 people, the first time ever that he was speaking on TV with a teleprompter. It was an 18-minute speech and he was preparing for it for months together. And that speech could either make him or break him. It was a huge turning point. And at the end of the speech, it went off so well that, people said this man is going to be the first Black president of the United States. So if you go back and listen to that speech, and you must, in fact, I paused the book, went to YouTube, watched that speech and came back and read the rest of it. The way President Obama starts the speech is he says, in fact, I don't remember the exact words, but then the message is, I'm so glad to be here today. More than anything, because I'm one of the most unlikely persons to get a chance to be on a stage like this, because my grandfather was a farmer in Kenya. My father used to herd sheep in Kenya, and then he came to the US. And then my mother is, she talks about her mother and the grandfather on his mom's side. And the entire thing, so he basically starts off with his story and he says, if someone like me, who is an immigrant into the United States, and I could study in Ivy League colleges and be where I am today, there is hope for everyone else. And he says a story like mine would not have unfolded in this way in any other country other than the United States. And that is why it's called the land of the opportunity. So that is how I related the sentence of owning your story and how Barack Obama owned his story. And you must see that video in the first time people stand up and give him a standing ovation is 2 minutes into the speech. So you can imagine, how much of an impact these few lines have made. So I'll take a pause again to see what you'll think about this.
I think I'll say something here, purely because when you hear this line, a lot of people today are talking about storytelling, and there's a reason, it's become what the concept has evolved in such a way. For most of my life, I mean, I'm not that old, yeah, but the early years, I was really confused about what I want, and it used to bother me. And I was confused by the thoughts that which tags define me. I was trying to put myself in various tags because I did not know my own story. I did not come to the fact that do I even have one? And the concept of reading biographies and reading those people's story as I was 13, I was reading biographies, and my heart would beat a little saying, I want to be one of those. I want to have a story that can inspire someone. If I'm sitting here in a library reading this in a games period, somebody else, there are more fanatics like me who want to have an impact with their own story. That from that day to this day, the background has not changed for me, but I've learned how to, connect the dots for me. I had all these tags that I was born with, all those situations that each one of us goes through that builds up and shapes our journey ahead. When I saw those dots as a means to be connected and tell my story, my entire life started falling into place. At least I knew what I wanted to do. So I think stories, some people try to build a new life for themselves. I learned to embrace the parts of my life that I wanted to run away from. And that became my story, and that became my strength, and which is why I'm connected with women like you. And this is exactly what has led me here. So it's something very personal to me. And I wanted to bring in that aspect that, your story is not something that you want to change your life completely and forget about your past or your childhood. It starts there. It starts in that exact moment with those tags that you are born with.
That's very inspiring and very insightful, Rashmeet. So, like you said, and Steve Jobs says in his autobiography, our life is a series of dots. You never see the connections looking forward. Only looking backward can you see how those dots eventually connected and got you to where you are. So that's an amazing analogy you brought in. Anyone else before we move on to the next point? Yeah, Sangeeta.
So I want to just take it up from where Rashmeet left. And I agree with this, that stories have a big power in them. And stories not only need to be, so a lot of us, we don't realize or we don't reflect back into our story. We don't read our own stories ourselves. And that's the reason we ignore the power of a story. So even for me, it happened much later in my life when I realized and when I owned my own story. And then I shared it forward. Also, I just want to say that I believe that every woman has a story. Some are told, some untold. But we need to come out with those stories, not only read it ourselves, but share it with others so that the others also benefit from our stories.
Yeah, that is very nice. Thank you, Sangeeta. We'd love to hear your story also sometime. Rashmeet's told me a lot about that. We must invite you to talk to us once. Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to the next point. This is when Michelle was studying in school, and she says she was entering 7th grade at that time. And a local newspaper called the Chicago Defender had actually written a piece, opinion piece on a particular school, and they presented quite a colored opinion on the way the school was shaping up. So there are a couple of lines here that are very insightful. It says, failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It's vulnerability that breeds with self-doubt and then is escalated, often deliberately, by fear. These feelings of failure, he mentioned, were every day in my neighborhood in the form of parents who couldn't get ahead financially, of kids who were starting to suspect that their lives would be no different, and so on. So basically, she's trying to say how children in some minority segments are sometimes susceptible to feelings of failure before they can actually become failures as results. So if they've seen their parents not succeed, if they've seen not many people in their community succeed, then they somehow start to accept the circumstances. Then they don't have the energy to go against what everyone else is thinking or saying, and then go on to convert that failure into success. So this is another very interesting line. Failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. Does that resonate with any of you? Has it happened to you any time that you were discouraged because people said you couldn't succeed, and how did you fight against it?
Yeah, this is Maplin. I would say that's every day, every year. Right? I mean, there are many challenging moments, especially now with racism being rampant in the United States. But yeah, that's what drove me to become who I am today, is because for a long time they said, well, you're a girl. Why do you dress up this way? Why do you speak this way? Why do you ask all these questions? You're too serious. Aren't you supposed to be eating with the other children? I've always been curious. So yeah, it's a deterrent, but for whatever reason, I had a drive inside of me that couldn't stop. It's my oxygen. When you tell me I can't do something like that, that's when I amp it up more and say, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's what I do every day.
Yeah, that is very inspiring, Maplin. Does anyone else want to go before I?
I'd like to share that I've had a long corporate stint of about 30 years. And then 6.5 years ago, I started the NGO. And why this NGO started is because after having worked so hard all my life and having, being a corporate person and a trainer for 9 years, suddenly I felt, I'm not really doing anything that is giving me any satisfaction. And I actually started feeling like a failure to say, where is the direction? I mean, I'm growing in years. but there's nothing that is keeping me happy or satisfied. There's nothing that, I've done a lot, but yet there's nothing to show that, yes, I've done something worthwhile in my life. And that's when that feeling came in, and that's when I suddenly had this thought that let me start something for somebody where I will be able to make a mark. And when I started the NGO, and today, I mean, the level of satisfaction that I have, I mean, after feeling like a failure, after having done so much in my life, suddenly I felt that yes, now there is something that people will remember me with. And so there's always a tipping point, I think, that pushes you into doing something which makes it worthwhile for what you're doing.
Yeah, that is really good, Seema. In fact, that ties in very well with another instance that I will come to later in the book, when even Michelle Obama felt quite lost after having created a very successful career in law, when she started to wonder if that is where her life's purpose lied, or should she change it. So a very good segue to that when we get there. So here's another very interesting thing that probably changed the course of the way Michelle's attitude towards life shaped up. So when she was in high school, she had her eyes on studying at Princeton University. So she went to her college career counselor and tried to speak to her to get guidance on how she should prepare and so on. So she says that lady looked at her profile and within a couple of minutes, looks up and says, I don't think you're Princeton material. So imagine for a kid at that age, and for someone to hear this from someone who is probably at a much more senior level, has seen a lot of kids graduate, to say that you're not really Princeton material should have discouraged her. But, I'll just read what Michelle says she felt that way. She says, I wasn't going to let one person's opinion dislodge everything I thought I knew about myself. She says, in her life, she's been lucky enough to meet a lot of people, a lot of extraordinary and accomplished people. And she says, what I've learned is this: all of them have doubters. Some continue to have roaring, stadium-sized collections of critics and naysayers who will shout, I told you so, at every little misstep or mistake. The noise doesn't go away, but the most successful people I know have figured out how to live with it, to lean on the people who believe in them, and to push forward with their goals. That day I left the college counselor's office at Whitney Young. I was fuming, my ego bruised more than anything. My only thought in the moment was, I'll show you. So she went ahead and eventually succeeded in getting a seat at Princeton. And I must read this other sentence to kind of cap it up. It says, so once she got selected at Princeton, she went to the professor who actually helped her and thanked him. She says, I never did stop on the college counselor's desk. So the lady who discouraged her, she said, I never did stop at her desk to tell her she'd been wrong, that I was Princeton material after all. She wouldn't have done anything for either of us. And in the end, I did not need to show her anything. I was only showing myself. So that again is such a powerful sentence, right? At the end of the day, you don't need to show other people what stuff you're made of, as long as you realize your strength and that you deserve where you've gotten and why you've gotten there. So does this strike a chord with anyone? I'll take a pause.
Yeah, actually, I would like to make my point. I did have something actually similar to Michelle Obama experience at my time with high school, because I wanted to go into engineering, but my school didn't provide any basics for engineering. So even though I had the best of marks, I do remember actually one of my teachers saying it was impossible to get into engineering. Not the basics. So I did the same thing like her, and my lesson is this: unfortunately there are people who won't believe in you, and they don't do it. It's not something personal, it might be their own experience, and you just have to go on to really believe in what you want to do, and be strong, and always taking on new challenge as it's a game. Not thinking like people trying to put you down is because it's a difficulty, it's a real hustle, but it's like a game that you're playing. And of course, the most satisfying part of this game is that you can always prove that they were not right, don't need to just shut it down on their face because they will see it when you're successful. And it's rewarding just to look about it and say, oh, come on, did they say that some time ago? Well, look at me now.
Yeah.
I'm right where I wanted to be. I got through the challenge that people didn't expect me to go through that challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so inspiring, Atewet, and the way you said it is so lovely. And it relates back to what Sangeeta was saying a bit earlier, that all of us don't look back on our stories enough. I think in all of our lives, there have been points where people have said we couldn't do something and we went ahead and did it. And it need not be necessary for us to go back to that same person and show them that, you know what, you said I couldn't do it and here I am, I've done it. But I think it is good for us to even reflect back on those instances and realize that we've achieved so much in life. Maybe we don't celebrate it enough. So that's an amazing incident. Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to? Linsha, were you waiting?
Yes.
Yeah.
So even I consider my childhood that way. I went to the same school with my siblings, and they were like the top scorers of the school. So all of my teachers at one point have told me like, "Are you really their sibling? Like, why are you this way? Why are you scoring so low?" They even thought of failing me in my second class, and they used to call my parents and complain that she is always looking out of the window and not concentrating on the classes. This went on for some years. And after that, at some point, I realized like I really need to prove that I'm capable of doing it. Then I think I did well for myself. I went to IIT, then an IIM, so that's like good enough. And I went back to my school and I distributed chocolates and sweets because there were some teachers who actually supported me. So it's not like a world against me. There were some of them who were doubting me, but there were some people to keep that balance. So I won't say it's exactly a world against me, but
yeah. In fact, that's another amazing point you say there, that while so many people would have been against you, some of them did support you, and it is so important to go back and thank those who stood by you, you know, when the rest of the world was doubting you. So that is again extremely important. And again, the onus is on us to do the same for someone else. So, you know, we need to give back and support or inspire others who may be facing similar situations.
Uma, I would like to add here that sometimes maybe it's nice to thank people who've been running you down, because sometimes they are the ones who encourage you to do better in life, because, you know, they make you prove yourself to say that, you know, what you're saying is wrong and I can actually do it. So sometimes you need to thank both the ones who support you and who don't support you, because I think they contribute to your success.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting. It's like a ball bouncing, right? Throw it to the ground, the higher it bounces back. So that's an amazing point. Thank you.
I could connect with Linsha having more siblings, right? There are 4 siblings for me, and they're all toppers, and I've never topped anything in school. And I was like the most confident child among everyone, saying that, you know, I would do something big someday. And even my siblings used to laugh at me, like, it not really like sarcastically, but they used to say that you're like so much of overconfidence on you. But then they started believing in me when I was doing, multiple things together. I was able to solve bigger problems than what they used to solve with math, with coding, and lots of things they've seen. And then they started thinking that, okay, she would do something at least. And then eventually now I think it's all about what I want to do. And like she said, it's all for yourself. Once you have a clarity on what you want to do in life, there's nobody else in the picture, right? People say that they've criticized. I'm sure there might have been many, but hardly has an impact on me. Like my younger sister says that, you know, you dust off everything, whatever is said. Like, that's how I am. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, in fact, Swathi, that's a very interesting segue into the next lines I was thinking of reading. So this is where Michelle Obama, thinks back about, on her career once she's already established and she's doing this law practice. She says whenever she met her relatives, you know, her group of a family, she says they were all extremely impressed with whatever she had achieved. So she had 2 Ivy League degrees under her belt. She was doing extremely well in her law practice. So she says, people looked at me as if I'd already made my mark in the world. This may be the fundamental problem with caring a lot about what others think. It can put you on the established path, the my isn't that impressive path, and keep you there for a long time. Maybe it stops you from swerving, from ever even considering a swerve, because what you risk losing in terms of people's high regard can be too costly. So she says sometimes there are certain paths that are considered to be the good or the nice kind of paths to follow in life. You go to an Ivy League college, you get a good job, you get a high-paying salary, you build a house, you get married, you have kids. So she says sometimes when you do all those things, the kind of applause you get from whoever is close to you, that wow, she's made it in life or he's made it in life, is so is addictive that then you don't even think of any other path because you've already done so well and everyone's on your side. It becomes too costly to take a risk, and you're risking losing that reputation that you built with people. So she says relying too much on what others think of you is not really a good thing because it stops you from taking risks in life. So I'll take a pause again to see if that resonates with any of you. Yeah, Sangeeta?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just read out. So actually, Uma, there's a very big disease that each one of us suffer from, and that is, we want external validation. For whatever we do, we are always seeking that. That is somebody else saying that what I've done is correct or not. But I think one needn't do that. One needs to reflect within oneself and just seek the answers from there. So external validation cannot always take you everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we should look internally also and not just externally for validation. Anyone else? Swathi, you left a corporate career to start off as an entrepreneur. Did people find it surprising, or what did you feel like at that point?
Every time there's a surprise for my family from my side, so they got used to it. After engineering, I did my master's, and I didn't want to go to the place where my sisters are, so that I'm independent enough and I'm trying enough things with whatever I want to do in my master's, right? So I went there, but eventually I ended up in the same place as my big sister, which is in Tennessee. But I didn't have the choice because there I was getting a full scholarship. So when I was doing my master's, I've been to all these interviews from Amazon, Microsoft and all. I could get a sense of what exactly is in store for a software developer, right? 10 years down the line, what I would become. Probably I would become ST2, ST3 or whatever it is, and it was not exciting for me. So I secretly searched for a job, and then I got a job in a startup in India, and then that is when I revealed the story to my family, and they were like, super shocked, but they didn't have anything to say because they know I'm really stubborn and I made up my mind, and so from there they got used to it, and then I've come back, and from there on it's like they know I will do things on my own, and they just leave it to me. So when I wanted to start, it was not that of a shocker for them because that was a bigger risk for them, because most of my family is settled in US, and they know for people from software industry how well they can earn in USA. If I leave such a big paycheck and if I'm coming back, that was like the biggest shock of their lives. But when I said I want to do entrepreneurship with my would-be husband and all, not that shocking for them, but now they're like so used to it, and they don't ask me anything about what I want to do, what I want to become.
That is very nice, and glad it worked out for you. So very nice.
Hopefully, a lot more things in store for them and for me also. But
okay, does anyone else want to
Yep.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, let me add a point because I don't think it's been mentioned yet.
Mhm.
What made Michelle Obama so strong is because her parents were her solid foundation. So despite the external challenges, the constant changes, whether it was the neighborhood that they lived in and all the racial discrimination and everything else, the mom was a constant variable. She was very supportive. Her aunt was supportive. They stayed in one small house, and there was a stability. The grandpa was there as well. So we can't neglect how important it is to have family bonding that allows them to express, to investigate and try something else outside, right? That's what kept her stable the whole life. If you listen to her Becoming book, she has that nice, very calm conversation, like you're sitting next to her, you know, having tea. But that didn't come because of external. It was because it was strong inner, you know, identity that she had, and her parents supported throughout her whole life and still do.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Mabel. And in fact, there is a point where, you know, while Michelle was working in this law firm and she travels to another city, I think New York, for a particular case, and they spend a lot of time, probably 2 to 3 weeks, working on that particular case, and eventually that case doesn't even go to the court. They go for an out-of-court settlement. And she's so, that's probably a tipping point for her when she's wondering if she's in the right job. And she says when she lands at the airport, her mom comes to pick her up. And in the car itself, her mom senses, you know, what happened, is something wrong? And she starts telling her mom the whole story. So that helps her clarify her emotions also. So the strength of the relationship is evident from the fact that the mother was able to make out the daughter's emotions as soon as she saw her. And then Michelle felt, you know, free enough to start discussing all this with her, even while the thoughts were evolving in her mind. So a very great point that you brought out there. Thank you. Okay, on to the next one.
Yeah, sure.
This is a place where she's actually met Barack Obama, and she says they were lying in bed one day. And Barack Obama is deep in thought, and she says, "Hey, what are you thinking about over there?" And he turned to look at me, his smile a little sheepish. "Oh," he said, "I was just thinking about income inequality." This, I was learning, was how Barack's mind worked. He got himself fixated on big and abstract issues, fueled by some crazy sense that he might be able to do something about them. It was new to me, I have to say. Until now, I'd hung around with good people who cared about important enough things, but who were focused primarily on building their careers and providing for their families. Barack was just different. He was dialed into the day-to-day demands of his life, but at the same time, especially at night, his thoughts seemed to roam a much wider plane. So, and she goes on to say at various points in the book how she was really inspired by Barack when he looked at all these issues that were facing America and the rest of the world. And he had this sort of a confidence which says, I can make a difference and I want to make a difference. And he went about doing that exactly. So that brought me to this point where I'm wondering, and Seema, maybe you can also talk about this. There are some times in life, and I felt the same when I quit my corporate career around 1.5 to 2 years ago, when I realized that, okay, I'm doing well in my corporate career and I've done decently well for me and my family. But then one day when I'll have to leave this world, what will I be remembered for? Will I be remembered as a great consultant who traveled across the globe and gave advice to CXOs? But is that what I want to be remembered for? Or do I want to create something that lasts beyond me? And that is when I, thought of what is it that I'm very passionate about. And I realized that I want to see more women reach the top, more women get into leadership positions. And I quit to start off this venture. But I'd want to hear from some of you, and Mabel and I know you do so much work around women empowerment across so many different areas. Seema, you left your corporate job to start off this NGO. So what really, and Atewet, you also lead a Lean chapter in Italy. Rashmeet too. So what led you all to move out of your comfort zones and pick up a cause that is much bigger than ourselves? And what gave you the confidence to say that, fine, I will be able to make some difference, maybe not in 1 million lives, but at least maybe in 10 lives or 5 lives. So I'll bring this up for conversation.
So we have a very nice tagline which says, changing the world one mind at a time.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so because we work with children, and I think, it's very important, especially the children from marginalized communities who have absolutely no opportunity to learn and to prove themselves, or even have any kind of exposure to the world we live in. So to be able to give them that exposure, and I've been doing it for 6.5 years, and I really think that, yes, I have been able to make a difference. I know it's a drop in the ocean, but it's all right. Like I said, one mind at a time. And I work only with women. I have a group of 8 women who support me in this cause. And believe me, and the reason why I started this and why I continue to do it with so much passion is because I want to leave a legacy. I want people to remember me by something that I have done to make a difference to the world. So I think that's important. Whenever we do something, it's important to leave behind something which you will be remembered by. So obviously those are positive things, and I really feel that, yes, I'm headed that way, and I'm creating a team which will take it forward, regardless of whether Seema is there to lead that team or not. So that's where I came from.
Thanks, Seema. That is so inspiring. Thank you.
I can add something to that.
Sure.
I know I've been working, and you said it, supporting women, but I think for me personally, because I know there's such a gap, I thought that inspiring men in a men-dominated field is an important act or movement to do, because we don't tell our stories to men also. We don't tell it as clearly as what we intend. So we need to work with what's making it difficult to begin with. The root cause of the problem is the perspective from men's perspective is not clear. They don't understand the difficulties and challenges that we have. And to motivate that, we need to give them our side of the story, let them see the things that we're dealing with. And if we're not telling them that, clearly it's never going to change. Yes, we're supporting women. Yes, we're supporting girls. But if you're not enlightening the other half of the population, we're still not doing our job.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective you bring in, Maybelline. And now everyone's talking about the power of having men as allies. In order to achieve real empowerment, we cannot do it alone. We need men to be allies for us across the journey. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
So I want to talk about somebody here, and it's they would. I want to bring this point out that sometimes I think being a part of a big community or starting a society or an organization is the only way you can change lives or be a part of the revolution. I have a different opinion to that. I think it's not just that you're a part of a community and you lead one, only then you can start this change. Building upon what Seema said, one life at a time, for me it started with one professor, one teacher. I was in my high school years, and I was so lost as a kid. People do not recognize me from that era. They don't at all. I was so lost in my life. He just came up to me. He used to observe me, and he saw me going down. He had no role to play as such. He was like, I never asked him for that. He came to me, sat next to me, and after the lectures, he just started talking to me randomly to understand what is it that I'm going through. And in those conversations, he made sure that I speak my mind out. And it's hard for people to believe I'm known for speaking a lot now, but before that particular day, I had never in my entire life spoken my opinion ever. And I was 17 at that point. I was so underconfident that one professor, he just ignited that inside of me, and there has been no stopping ever since. I talked to him 7 years, 8 years later, and I tell him, Professor, I'm going for my first TEDx conversation. I'm going to be speaking there about my journey. He said, I always knew you could do it. It's just that somebody need to nudge you and tell you that, hey, you are strong enough. And I think that is change in its own way. and men can be a part of it. They don't have to be just your family members. They can be anyone. And I think and I genuinely believe in that, because I've always found such mentors in my entire life. If you are really focused on what you want to do, and you bring those positive vibes in the universe, some good people who will actually help you in your career will come to you in their own way, and they will change your life in the most impossible way ever. To me, that professor was, when I say I wrote a very long article saying that I was born 7 years back, because that's the day when my voice came into existence. It became a problem for someone around me, but 7, 8 years later, I know that that voice has a value and it can change lives. So it's for everyone that, sometimes those people come to you. They can be your allies, they could be just anyone, family, friends, and someone even younger to you as well. I just wanted to bring that point in.
Yeah, that's really that's a very lovely message, Rashmeet, and it is true. I think if all of us closed our eyes for a minute, we easily a couple of faces will flash in our mind. People who helped us along the way, and I think it is so important to go back and tell some of them and thank them for the kind of intervention that they brought in at the time they brought in. And the second thing that I take away from that is. Sometimes when you really want something and you're working towards it sincerely, the universe conspires to bring it out there for you. All you need is a little bit of patience and, to keep up the effort. So that is really nice. I think we are at the end of this hour. I'll just read one last sentence before we go ahead. This is from the end of, towards the end of the book, when Michelle says, I'm an ordinary person who found herself on an extraordinary journey. In sharing my story, I hope to help create space for other stories and other voices to widen the pathway for those who belong and why. So, that very line, I'm an ordinary person who found herself on an extraordinary journey, that is somehow, bringing the end of the entire book. And it's a very nice way to sum up. And not just because she was the First Lady of the United States, I'm sure all of us are leading extraordinary lives in our own ways. So I don't remember the exact words of this quote, but someone said, you can either view your life as if every day is a miracle or it is not. So it's all in our hands. So I think all of us are leading extraordinary lives. We just need the attitude to look at it that way. So I'll take a pause now. Any final thoughts that you take away from this book that you want to share with the rest of us? What were your key 1 or 2 takeaways from this book?
Not about this book, but I don't know who wrote this, but it said that this world is not made up of atoms, it's made up of stories. I don't remember who said it, but I think that's very true, because each one of us has a story to tell, and these are inspiring stories like Michelle Obama that actually inspire us and motivate us to do much more than what we're doing. So I think it's good reading, and I look forward to reading it. So far I've just seen the documentary, but I'm glad I'm here, which inspires me to go ahead and pick up the book and start reading it. Thank you.
Thanks, Seema. Anyone else wants to add thoughts on?
Yeah, I can't wait to read everybody's stories. So it's not just Michelle Obama. So everybody in this room will eventually have a book. So I'm looking forward to reading those or hearing those on the audiobook.
Exactly. I'm with Mabel on that. I mean, I every time I have a conversation, I always feel like if these stories are taken to younger girls, they'll become world leaders before you know it. And at the end of the day, we don't have to just read about big people and the successful people and the ones that you can see, because we have successful people in our own circles. It's just that they are not flashed to the world. And I think that is the way we as women can change the face of media. If we take this into our own hands and we share and talk about our women, nominate our women as the leaders around and showcase them to even our own networks, we are doing enough for our, for at least for me, if I nominate somebody saying that, hey, this person is doing so and so job and she's amazing, she's fantastic, we already know that we have encouraged her and we have one more person in their support group. And I would like Maybelline, I would just say, be that girl, be that woman, be that person for that somebody, and your life will never feel the same after that. It feels amazing.
Thank you so much, Rashmeet. And through the Star and Me, we will try to do that. In fact, let's discuss this together. But we'd love to highlight stories of people who may not be famous, but who've succeeded in their own right and need to be told. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to more of these chats. Interesting.
Yeah, and do share feedback as to how you liked these. We are trying this book club sort of a review for the first time. If there is good feedback, we'd continue. Yes, Atewet. Okay.
I would like to add, though I joined in a bit late, I forgot about the time, and I really liked what Rashmeet said just now, that should actually vouch and tell the stories of people, the ladies around us. We have so many success stories, and so we should be the ones who should be telling about these stories, and that is how they will feel that they have achieved something and do more, strive more. So I really second what Rashmeet has said, and I really will make a sincere effort to do this from now on.
Thanks, Vinita.
Hi, Uma.
Go ahead.
Oh, just a final word. When you started the session, you read a line on fear and actions, and I think one of the greatest things that we all go through, and as growing up, as matured as we are, fear is something that destroys us, or it can either motivate us. And by us telling our stories, we're actually motivating those who are on that thin line of whether destroying themselves when they're scared of something, or motivating themselves to come out and fight that fear. So as Mebo was saying, let's encourage one another, talk about our stories, our journey, so that those who are on that thin line, they can be motivated to do better than just destroying themselves, scared of something that can never be.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brenda. Yep. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we end here?
Just something on this format, Uma. I think this format has been excellent. First time for Star in Me. I think you should keep continuing to do it very regularly, and I love the way it has been formatted. You bring up the highlights of the book, where we could all discuss about it. And I'm sure this book has a lot more pieces also inside. Especially, it's the story of the power couple. For me, that's the biggest inspiration. Michelle herself is an inspiration, but as a couple, the amount of impact they could make on the world, that has been the biggest inspiration. And I could personally understand what it takes to for somebody to become that big at that age, or coming from that background. Especially if you're coming from a normal background, how does that happen? So that story was very insightful, and I would love to, if there's another session on this book, or even if we are having more such sessions, would love to participate, learn, and share more.
Thank you so much, Swathi. That is great feedback. Since we're trying this model for the first time, we will certainly continue. What I will also do is, I will, in fact, like Swathi was saying, these are just a couple of things that I picked up. There's so much more that is worth discussing. In the next couple of days, I will, in fact, publish a blog on my takeaways from the book, and I will tag all of you when I publish it. Do add your thoughts also on that particular thing.
We will definitely do. Keep us posted on the next one.
Yes, yes. We'll arrange another book club meeting. Thank you so much. Lovely meeting you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.